Now then, people, what's good? How are we all today? Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to True Gunners TV. Of course, we're back again, and this time we are going to be previewing the Arsenal versus Barcelona game. As we all know, the last pre-season game out there in the United States. Arsenal have not had a great pre-season so far. Of course, slapping up MLS All-Stars. We all expect that. And then, of course, the poor performance against Manchester United. We're going to have a little conversation about that to begin with. Then we're going to talk about our new signings and how they are getting on in pre-season. And, of course, we're going to delve into Arsenal versus Barcelona. The last time we played Barcelona, by the way, I remember us getting an absolute beating when Lionel Messi was there. Of course, Barcelona in recent years kind of fell down as big European giants, a lot of money troubles, a lot of debt that they've had to clear. They're going through the same thing as us at the moment, a PR process under Xavi, arguably one of the greatest midfielders of this generation, no doubt. And it's going to be interesting to see Xavi versus Arteta for the first time. Both managers try and play the ticky-tacky kind of football. And it's going to be very much a tactical game, no doubt. But before we get into all of that, guys, make sure you are slapping up the likes. As always, make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you're new as well, and hit the notification bell. And by the way, for those of you that didn't see the live stream that we did yesterday, there are now memberships available. If you want to become a member of the channel, please go ahead and do that. Of course, there's a small monthly subscription for that. But in return, you will get things like emojis and bits and bobs and stuff like that. And on top of that, I will eventually be doing content that is specifically for members only. So if you want to see that added content, which will include special guests as well, make sure you're becoming a member of the channel as well. Super chat, super thanks, all of that is available as well. It's up to you guys. If you want to do that, do that. If you don't want to do that, don't. But come on, guys, show the channel a bit of love. And tonight, I am joined by not one, but two special guests tonight, because I had to do that for you guys, of course. And my first special guest is making his debut on the channel, and I actually come across this guy on Igal's channel, and no disrespect to Igal, but there's not many people on his channel that talk facts. But I like to hear what this guy had to say on Arsenal. So making his debut appearance, make sure you show him some love as well and go over and subscribe to his channel when this video is finished and done. Teareak, how are we doing, my bro?
I'm all good, Brandon. Thank you for that intro. I do understand what you're saying there, but no, it was a pleasure to meet you on Igal, and it's a pleasure to be on here, so thank you for inviting me.
No worries at all. And of course, my second guest, I had to get him back again. We've already done one video today together, so why not make it two? Like, come on. We've had him on the channel already before. Love speaking to this guy on and off camera, by the way, on and off camera. And that guy is, of course, Northside. How are we doing, bro?
I'm good for me. I'm here, man. I'm here. Listen, after cooking a guy on this channel, what, an hour ago? We're back again. We're back again, family. Thumbs up, porra. We're good, man. Thanks for having me.
See, look, man's got more subscribers than all of us here, and he calls himself like an experienced YouTuber. Teareak comes on and he's all like, yeah. Oh, it's all good, bro. And he comes on, he's on mute. Like, what are you doing?
I'm a Mario Coulson dude. Get me? I'm here. I'm on my debut. Young gun in the game.
Young gun in the game. Exactly that. So, boys, we know what we're talking about. Arsenal, Barcelona later on this evening, or should I say 3:30 in the morning. I'm cool. I've got a newborn in the house, so I will be up and ready for that game. What are you boys saying? Like, are you going to be waiting up for it, or maybe have an early bedtime after this and try and get up, or what are we saying? We'll start with you, Teareak.
I've just had a nap, so I woke up probably from a nap about half an hour ago, just making sure that I'm going to have enough energy to watch that game. Because at the end of the day, I think pre-season is important in seeing how the lads play, for sure. So I've had that. I'm probably going to have a cup of coffee whilst I'm at it, and then I'm going to feel it tomorrow whilst I'm working.
What we're saying, Northside, you ready for this game?
I don't know, man. I got work at 8, man. You know what I mean? It depends how I feel, man. Come on, man. I love my sleep, and I'm moody when I don't have sleep. So I don't know. It's up in the air right now.
Yeah, that's it, bro. That's it. But before we discuss and delve into Arsenal versus Barcelona any further, of course, we've got to recap the previous fixture. Diabolical performance by Arsenal. You guys, of course, that are regular viewers of the channel and subscribe to the channel, know my thoughts on this already. If you haven't seen the video, make sure you go back and check that out. But I wanted to get these boys' views on the Manchester United game. Of course, Arsenal losing that game 2-0. Doesn't mean too much. It's pre-season, but it's still Manchester United. It's still a team that's your rival in the Premier League. You want to get one up on them. I heard Arsenal fans talking about 6s and 7-0s and Ten Hag's learning off Arteta. Like, what are you chatting about? Like, Ten Hag just schooled Arteta, bro. What are you talking about? Northside, what are you saying on this one, bro?
Yeah, pathetic performance, really. There was no energy, intensity for me. The way we were allowing Anthony and Bruno to cut into the midfield and get their shots off, nobody was closing them down. Nobody was putting their body on the line. And at the end of the day, we needed to make a statement. We're nearly men last season, and it's all great. This fan base coming up with the same pucaria, the same merda, the same lixo every single time. Oh, we beat the MLS All-Stars. I saw certain people saying, we're going to win the league next season. Well, at the end of the day, that ain't good enough. MLS All-Stars is not what we're up against next season. It's teams like Man United. And for me, it ain't good enough. I'm not expecting everything to be perfect, but I'm expecting work rate, desire, heart, fighting to get into this team. We're getting players like Declan Rice that are fighting for, first team spots, Havertz. They should be fighting for their spots. Any chance you get, you should be trying to impress this manager. And for me, Anthony could have made it 3-0. He cut in, he just put it a bit wide. Then you had Bruno. He shouldn't have had all that time in the midfield to let off that shot because he's always got a shot in him. Yeah, for everything that he's criticized for, he can always score. He's a midfielder that scores consistently. Why are we allowing him to let that shot off? Ramsdale, for me, could have done a little bit better. The shot was still from far. You should have been able to save that. I know the ball was dipping, but I expect better. Then you look at Gabriel with a shocker at centre-back. We've seen this during the season before, and that's not good enough. You need to cut that out of your game. I understand that players aren't perfect. They're human, but at the end of the day, we've seen these mistakes from Gabriel before, switching off. That ain't good enough. We're going up against trouble-winning Man City. You got to sharpen up. And then you're looking at Nketiah missing his chance. How many more times do we need to see Nketiah missing his chance? But this fan base only want to twerk for Nketiah when he scored a brace against Chelsea the same season we bottled top 4 because he wasn't consistent enough. We know this guy ain't good enough. And we've seen that he ain't good enough. Just like Iwobi wasn't good enough. Just like various players, El Nene, Holding, etc. Not good enough for Nketiah. I get that Jesus is the better baller all round. But the one thing you can trump on Jesus, which is not a strong point, is being a clinical finisher in the box. He can't do that. That filo da puta is merda. That guy is culo, bro. And then we have Havertz. The whole fan base justifying, Havertz, the one good attribute about him is his height. Well, why didn't you score that header? Send it over the crossbar. The one attribute that people are trying to sell me on Havertz, why didn't he header it in? Yeah, just because you're tall doesn't mean you're a great header of the ball. And once again, we can see Havertz, for me, ain't good enough. Yeah, flopped in the skills challenge. Yeah, flopped in the skills challenge, and then you get one opportunity against Man United, and you don't put it to bed. I'm sorry, not good enough. Inconsistent at Chelsea, and so far I'm seeing inconsistencies again in pre-season. Not rating the guy. Overall, Arteta, you've bought this guy for about the same money that that Chelsea bought him from Germany when he actually had a big reputation. You bought him, and you got to make it work. If not, I'm sorry, this manager needs to get sacked next season if you don't win a major honour. Okay.
Strong words there from Northside. Teareak, do you share the same view as Northside, or are you a little bit different? And also, Kai Havertz, like, what do you make of the performances that we've seen from him so far? And not only that, like, I don't know your view on the Kai Havertz signing, so like, give us an overall on that, mate.
Yeah, of course. With what Northside's just said, he's not wrong in a lot. I actually agree with a lot of what he said. I know he says it, and I can see you guys in the chat that might not disagree, but he says it quite frank and how he feels it is. So you have to let him. Yeah, you have to let him get his frustrations out, because it is a game against Manchester United at the end of the day. But I feel like the performance was poor. I know the result was, but the performance being poor was what was the issue for me. And I've looked into it, and I watched the game again, and the reason why the performance was poor wasn't actually to do with personnel. It was structurally. We had so much change in on that left side in particular. Tomiyasu coming in, playing at left back, a right-footed defender playing off his weaker side, and we've seen him come up into left back there against Salah last season, did a good job. But then when you add in Kai Havertz into that left side, and then Martinelli, but you're seeing Eddie Nketiah drift out to that left side a lot. Those are players that have absolutely no connections at all, and players that don't really suit each other's profile. So I think that was a big part to play. And when I did watch the goals back, they were all down to errors. The first goal was actually, a lot was being made on Havertz in that situation when he was coming back, tracking back. But it was actually Declan Rice who was the issue in that moment, because he's moved out into left back, and then Tomiyasu is in no man's land, really, not marking anyone, not really engaging with Anthony. It was Kobe Mainu actually in that position. So there's a lack of communication there, lack of understanding. But those are the things, and this is where I kind of disagree with Northside, and I say calma, because, or as Mikel Arteta said, tranquilo, because I think this is the first time with a lot of this midfield, the first time they're playing together, first time we're seeing a lot of these different connections. Timber also, I didn't think he had a great game in that one when he came on against MLS All-Stars, but that's not the level. As Northside said, where I agree with him there, this Man United's going to be the level. I have no problem in Man United coming, being aggressive, playing hard. We have to deal with that, and the referee has to deal with it if there's any challenges that are there for, not really us. And just on the Kai Havertz one, Brandon, on there, I actually do think Kai Havertz will long term be a good signing for Arsenal. I understand what people are saying. I didn't quite get the move in particular, because I thought we was initially signing him as a forward. But if you have a look into how Arteta is going to try and build this midfield, it's going to be with two attacking number 10s, with Declan Rice having a main bulk of that responsibility on the defensive load, stopping transitions, breaking up play, someone who's got the energy to do so, and being able to give it to players forward that were better than him. And I don't think there's going to be as much responsibility on Declan Rice to progress the ball like a Thomas Partey does. And we've still got Thomas Partey there as an option in those types of games where we are playing against a Man United away from home. We can switch out Havertz, because a lot of people are saying they would prefer to see a Rice, Partey, Ødegaard midfield. And I think there will be occasions where that'll be the case. But Kai Havertz will give us something. You saw a glimpse into what Granit Xhaka was last year, guys, and Granit Xhaka became a goal-scoring midfielder. You didn't actually see him do much defending until we started losing control of games towards the end of the season, like against Newcastle when he made that big slide tackle. But earlier on, when we were playing well and we were dominating and we were top of the league, Granit Xhaka was to be seen, nowhere to be seen in the defensive aspect. And that's what I preferred from him, because I didn't really want him to be in those deep areas with his lack of mobility in that sense. But yeah, I think he will provide more of a goal threat as a secondary option. We need to look at him like that, more of we're playing with two 10s. Ødegaard is like the creative number 10, and Havertz is like the second striker. Someone, who, when Dele Alli was in his pomp, someone like that. Dele Alli wasn't a creator for them. He was someone to make late runs into the box and score goals. I just think we need to. I would also start, just a quick thing, and then we'll probably get into this later, but I would also start Havertz in that midfield to give him more time during this preseason, because he won't have the time to settle in when the season kicks off.
Okay. We've got a comment here from here to there. It says we need some type of midfield cohesion and competence today, but Partey, Rice, Ødegaard must start opening day. So this comment here, I actually quite, agree with that one. Like, I think our main issue against Manchester United was the midfield, and they there's an old saying that goes, if you win the midfield battle, you 9 times out of 10 you win the game. If you lose the midfield battle, 9 times out of 10 you lose the game. And that midfield area is so important. And I think people are looking at, the signing of Declan Rice, the signing of Kai Havertz, the signing of Timber, and the money that we've spent. Have we actually really improved, though? Like, what I mean by that is, like, you have that cohesion between Granit Xhaka, between Thomas Partey, between Martin Odegaard. We're almost starting that again from fresh, because now we've got 2 new midfielders coming in and Martin Odegaard playing in front, who by all means is our captain, but for me isn't really that much of a leader. I think definitely changing up one of the midfielders, and like say for Rice, for Xhaka, and then having Partey there makes a little bit more sense to me, because we're talking about players needing to come in and have time to adapt and all this. Let's not forget Declan Rice, for £105 million, he needs time to adapt as well. So, and I just think when you got the solid base of Thomas Partey and then Martin Odegaard in front, who's going to do, all of what he does and what he did do last season, and then Declan Rice, you're only changing one piece of the puzzle, so it makes it easier to transition in. When you're trying to play Rice and Havertz, who have never really played this system for Arsenal before, and then you've got Odegaard, who doesn't really lead, I think that's a disaster waiting to happen. I really do. And that's why I'm so sceptical about sitting here and saying, yes, Arsenal can compete for the league title next season, because I don't think it's as cut and dry as that. I think it all comes down to the manager, and it all depends on how the manager decides to structure the team. Now, I also understand where you're coming from as well, Teareak, because for me, although it's probably one of the most unpopular things to do after his awful performance against Manchester United, I would actually start Kai Havertz tonight as well, and give him at least 45 minutes just to try and build the relationships up a little bit. And, because he's not going to get this time. At the end of the day, I don't care what anybody says, whether it's Havertz, Declan Rice or Timber, we haven't got time no more. From the moment that season kicks off, we need to be hitting the ground running, because there are high expectations at Arsenal this season. High expectations of the manager. And if we do not meet the expectations, then I expect heads to roll. And a lot of fans are on the same page, to be fair. So yeah, no, that's a great comment there by Here to There. And that's kind of my, little 2 pence worth on it. Bringing it to the new signings as well, before we talk about the Barcelona game, I just want to gauge what your guys' thoughts are on the new signings, and more importantly, their performances so far in pre-season. And are you worried about any of them, or do you just think, it's pre-season, it is what it is, that kind of thing? I will start with you, Teareak, this time.
Yeah, so with the signings and what we've seen, what we've been brought in, we'll start off with Timber. He was the lowest in terms of the fee, and there's a lot of hype around him at the moment from Arsenal fans. And out of the ones that we did sign, he was the one that I was a bit skeptical of in terms of how much of an impact he can make this season. But clearly he's been brought in to provide more depth, a better option than Rob Holding, for someone that can mirror sort of what Zinchenko does on that left side for our right. So when we bring in a Timber for a Ben White, for example, or if a Saliba comes and play, and then comes out, and you can need to give him a rest, so to protect him from injury, of course, because he's our main centre-back, guys. When it comes to that, he's the linchpin of us playing out of the back, defending with such a high line as we saw last season. Then you can move Ben White centrally, and then they can have some real versatility around there, and we're maintaining that ball progression with Timber. But I don't think that we will see as much as what the Arsenal fans think, because we know with Mikel Arteta, he doesn't really like to mess around with his backline too much. He likes to keep them consistent and try and give them as many opportunities as possible. The worry with Zinchenko's fitness might mean he has more of a role to play next season. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I think that we might see some more fluidity change, more tactical versatility, shall I say, in and around the back, moving from a 3 to a 4. But we've seen that in pre-season, and that was some of the issues that we had against Man United, not players quite understanding where they need to be and whatnot. And I thought Timber was one of them. So, yeah, I'm a bit cautious on that for this short term this season. But, yeah, with the others, Declan Rice and Havertz, I think you have to kind of pair them together, because it wouldn't make sense bringing in a Kai Havertz without having Declan Rice in there. Because Declan Rice is someone who excels in that breaking up the play defensively in transitions when the space is open, and there is a lot of space in how we play at times, and when our attacks break down, Declan Rice is going to have to have a lot of responsibility breaking that play up. We didn't kind of like seeing Thomas Partey do it because we were so worried about his fitness, but he had the ability to also do it. With Declan Rice, you're hoping that he can do it more on a consistent basis, given the fact that he's got good durability, he's used to the physicality of the league. We've seen him do it in different parts of the season, and West Ham, that he really turned up in the crunch time where they needed to survive against relegation. We saw it against us against that match in Thomas Partey, where he made that mistake in the 2-2. He's able to press up high, play through the thirds, and that with Kai Havertz, this signing, I understand. I didn't get it like everyone else when he first came in, because I thought we was going to play him as a forward, and I'm like, it's not really the type of forward that I want. But when the noise started coming out as him playing as a midfielder in a not so much, but in a development on Granit Xhaka, so not a direct replacement, I thought straight away it's going to be built similarly to how Manchester City were in a 17-18 season, where Mikel Arteta was there as Pep's assistant manager, where they played a Fernandinho at the base, who profiles similarly to Declan Rice, breaks up and playing transitions, doesn't have too much responsibility progressing the ball forwards, and being the main deep line playmaker, because he had a Kevin De Bruyne, which will be more like a Martin Odegaard on that right half space, and a David Silva. David Silva's is a different profile to a Kai Havertz, where he's more of a creator, but from a defensive standpoint, you wouldn't be telling me 10 years before Man City and Pep Guardiola, that Centurion season, that you'd see a midfield of a number 6 and 2 number 10s, because you'd say that's just going to get ran through in the Premier League. You're just going to be open with space behind you, especially when they had Nicolas Otamendi at the back also. But they were able to outscore teams. Yes, they had those 4-3 defeats against that 4-3 defeat against Liverpool, and when it wasn't working well, they did look open. But at the end of the day, they were Centurions. So I think that's the similar mold Arteta's looking to play with, where we dominate teams, push them back as far back as possible, and keep that ball in their half. And I think we've got more threats, more versatility, breaking teams down now. But with all those signings said, Zinchenko is the one. He's the key one if we are going to be able to play with that Rice, Havertz, Odegaard midfield for me.
Okay. Before we move to Northside, I just want to address this comment. What I mean by Odegaard not being a leader is, I think it's clear to see that last season, Odegaard was the guy that wore the captain armband, and he led by example in terms of his performance on the pitch. You know, with the 15 goals and some of the performances in some of the games. But I think we all know that really and truly Granit Xhaka was the captain, just not with the armband. You know, Granit Xhaka was the leader on the pitch. And I think that's why it was so important that Arsenal signed Declan Rice this season, because when you lose Granit Xhaka, you lose the leadership element. Declan Rice gives you that. And I think that's why we went for Rice instead of Caicedo, because very similar in terms of, their attributes and what they can do on the pitch, and the way that, you'd maybe give them a role at Arsenal. Very similar, but Declan Rice is, he offers you that leadership element, whereas Caicedo not really. So that's what I mean by that. Northside, what do you think, bro, of the players' new signings and their performances so far? What are you expecting to see tonight as well?
Yeah, on the signings for me, let's start with the negative. For me, I'm not going to change my opinion on a player just because he's now an Arsenal player. there's nothing I've seen from Havertz that I think he's exceptional at. And when you're not buying him at a cut price, yes, players need time to bed in, but when I'm not getting you at a cut price and we could have used that money to get a player like Caicedo, then there's going to be high expectations. You haven't been coming at a cut price. You're not a super young player that I need to give time that's come from the youth academy. Ultimately, there's nothing about this guy that I think is world class. A lot of people are trying to bed him into this team, and I don't see where he fits. For me, I don't think he's exceptional going forward. I think that he's shown that he's inconsistent going forward. I don't think he's that effective. Technically, he's not technically like of the level of someone like Santi Cazorla or anything. In the box, I don't think he's anything clinical like what we had with Aubameyang. So I don't really see his strongest attributes. And like I said, with his height, I don't think he's an exceptional header of the ball like you see with someone like Mitrovic. So at the end of the day, he's a player that needs to prove me wrong. And I don't mind being proven wrong, but my skepticism comes from the fact that I've not seen it consistently from Kai Havertz. And I'm not seeing anything from this player that I can say, okay, he's got something to work around. And also, I'm not very convinced that Arteta can get the best out of him. There's been a lot of players that Arteta's brought into this club, and he's not got the best out of. Players like Cedric, he's not got the best out of. Lokonga, he's not got the best out of. Marquinhos, he's not got the best out of. Fabi Vieira, he's not got the best out of. Nuno Tavares, he's not got the best out of. And before we bought Rice, the biggest signing that we had, Pepe, he's not got the best out of. So for me, that's skepticism as to, is he really going to get the best out of Havertz? People, and it's crazy that it's a mad take when I say that Pepe, to me, I actually can put into words his attributes. He's not the complete player. He's a player that you need to work with. But I've seen the strong points of Pepe is he can score in the box. He can score screamers outside the box. He was a player that was pivotal for us getting to the Europa League final. When I look at Havertz, I don't see an attribute that I say, okay, you're not the complete player, but there's something that could be worked with. When I look at Pepe, I wouldn't advocate for him to be starting. The main problem we had with Pepe is he holds the ball way too long. Pepe one-on-one can put you on the arse. Technically, he's a sound player. His problem, he doesn't see runners. He doesn't read the game fast enough. He doesn't know when to release and when to shoot. But I can see that he's techie on the ball, and if he was faster with his decisions, alongside the fact that he can score various different goals, there's something there in a player that's not complete that I can say, this player with the right manager that can get the best out of him could be a lot better. And with Havertz, there is nothing about his ability that I see that I say, oh, I could say the same about Havertz. I think we're trying to I just don't see it with the player. I don't see it with Havertz. And I think people, even the Arsenal fan base that love in general, this fan base love to spin everything into something incredible, are even struggling with Havertz. He ain't that great, in my opinion. And it's down to him to change my opinion. Timber is coming into the league where we've seen legends like Shevchenko flop. So ultimately, I like the player. I like what I've seen of him in highlights, but ultimately you have to transition that into the Premier League. Until I see that in the Premier League, I'm not too sure, but I like the player. The things that I've seen that is his strongest attributes, I like. And I'm hopeful. I'm a lot more hopeful and happy with the Timber signing, but we'll see. We've seen legends come to this league and flop with bigger reputations than Timber, but I'm happy with that signing. Then we look into Declan Rice, a player that, yes, may need more time like Havertz, but a player that I actually see good attributes from. You know, I do think he's a decent passer of the ball. I think in the midfield, he's able to run the midfield. I think he's more imposing, and I see more attributes when it comes to Rice. So I'm very happy with that signing. Where I don't see the same thing being said to Havertz is because I don't see anything. And that is after me seeing him at Chelsea. And that is even when I've seen a little bit in preseason, I'm not seeing it. And if I'm not seeing it, I can't spin it into, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to. There's nothing about the player that I think is incredible. And ultimately, for me, Declan Rice, I think, yes, may need more time, but I actually think Declan Rice alongside Partey would be a great addition. I'm not too much on playing Partey or Declan Rice, but I don't mind either. At least we got rotation for Partey. I think we've seen that 2 seasons in a row, the last couple of games in the season, Partey's fallen off. So I wouldn't be outraged if Declan Rice is used as an alternative to Partey. Definitely an upgrade on the El Nene, which another player that ain't good enough. So ultimately, I like Timber, I like Rice, Havertz. I don't think anyone can sell me in Havertz until I see something different. And ultimately, I just don't think he's good enough.
Is it okay if I ask a question just on this Havertz point here? Basically, I want to ask you Northside on this. So with Havertz, when you've said there is basically he doesn't have anything that he really excels at, and I think you're right to a degree, because even when Arteta brought him in, he spoke a lot about his versatility, being able to play him in different zones and parts of the pitch, and he can do a decent job at that, and he thinks he can get the best out of him. What I would say to you is, and I'll ask you this, with Granit Xhaka. When Granit Xhaka last season was an important player, but he wasn't necessarily someone that had anything that he really excelled at as well. He was a decent passer of the ball, but that wasn't really his role at Arsenal last season, where we saw the best of him. He scored a few goals. He weren't excellent. He wasn't a fantastic finisher of the ball. So I want to ask you this: do you feel, and I've seen other teams as well, like Liverpool, have a Jordan Henderson, who's not really a great player at in one aspect. Do you feel like that Havertz could still have an impact as someone who just has like a secondary role to the team, as a secondary creator, secondary presser, and someone that just helps keep things ticking along in almost a sense?
The reason I'm not really with that type of I don't know how to put it, analysis, is because as much as Granit Xhaka improved last season, he didn't improve enough to win us the league. I'm not saying it's ultimately just down to him, but it wasn't good enough. So Granit Xhaka, for me, at Arsenal Football Club, is not the bar, because he wasn't good enough. Even with an improved Granit Xhaka, he still wasn't of the standard that is required. Let's just keep it real. Granit Xhaka has always showed that he has a Xhaka boom in him. We've always seen that going forward, even when he was asked to play the defensive role. Havertz in the Chelsea team, I don't recall him having the job of having to defend. Going forward, I've never seen anything exceptional about Havertz. People talk about the one goal in the Champions League. For me, I think it's very dangerous when we start rating players off of one moment, because I think loads of players in the Premier League that play for other clubs have a moment. When you have 38 games, you're going to have at least one or two moments where you look good, but are you consistent? And that's what separates world-class players. For me, getting a player that can just do a job or can fill in, well, we had that last season with Fabi Vieira and other players that I named before, and that wasn't good enough to get over the line. So we clearly need as good, if not ideally better than what we have, to really compete. This Man City team are cohesive. They have world-class players all over the pitch. This fan base say that they got two squads. We can't do the same issue that we had last season. Whereas we get a player that can do a job. We need better than can do a job, because Man City have a bench that can do better than do a job. They have a squad on the bench that arguably could be starting, which is why their manager can rotate and can actually trust their bench in Europe and in cup competitions and in the Premier League. That is what we're up against. So because of what we're up against, you have to match that. Otherwise, you're always going to come short. That is why, for me, even Havertz, even if someone says to me, oh, he could be a player that can do a job. Well, we're not up against a team that have players that can do a job. We need exceptional players. And this fan base, not you, but this fan base has spun that since we got the Champions League, we can get world-class players. I'm expecting better than players that can do a job. I'm expecting world-class players. And the players that he is trusting, I'm expecting him to get the best out of, because there's been a lot of players that he's brought in that he's not got the best out of. And that's where that comes from. At the end of the day, when you're competing for the league, the standards need to be high. And for me, Havertz isn't of the standard. And before we got Havertz, I don't think anybody would have said, you know what, the player that we need to push forward is Havertz.
Okay, I hear your point.
I've been silent. I was like, what's going on?
I hear both your points. That's all right. I was on mute. I was doing a north side there. Look, I was on mute. Listen, guys, before we go any further, there's 70 odd of you in here right now. Make sure you're hitting that like button. I just had a look to see how many likes we was on. 21. That is a disgrace. Come on, guys. Make sure you're smashing up the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're new as well, and hit that notification bell. So it brings us perfectly into of course, tomorrow/tonight, this game, which is Arsenal taking on Barcelona out there in the United States. The final pre-season game in the United States before the Emirates Cup game against Monaco. And then, of course, depending on how you look at this one, is it a trophy? Is it not a trophy? Community Shield, you know, it's a charity game to me. So, but I suppose it'd be nice to win it against Manchester City. But of course, Barcelona, we've got to focus on Barcelona. Big club, Barcelona, no doubt. Lost Messi, ended up in heaps of debt. They've brought in Xavi. Xavi's done a very good job, won them the league last season ahead of Real Madrid. Although, you know, you'd probably tar him with the same brush as Arteta when it comes to other competitions, you know, not doing so well in other competitions. Both teams like to play tiki-taki football. Both teams like to have the possession of the ball, the majority of the possession of the ball. This is going to be a very interesting game. And it's going to be a game of the managers, I think, because I think both sides are very, very similar in terms of, like, we've both got very good players that can do the role that we are asked to do by the manager. It's all going to come down to tactics for me. Like, who wins this battle? Arteta versus Xavi. What are we saying, Teareak?
This is it. I think this is a big game because with pre-season, I think performances are important. We saw the last game that we played last year, guys, against Chelsea, the 4-0 win, and the excitement we got as a fan base there, and we was able to carry that momentum into the Premier League season. So this one is important from in terms of a performance standby. Not really the result. If it was a 2-2 draw, but Arsenal were the much better team in the first half, where both teams played a strong team, I think we can take a lot of positives out of that. Because we've seen in the second half of games, in pre-season in particular, you'll see the rotation players come into it, where you would, if they were to come in, you'd hope that in the season that they'd play with a lot of the first teamers, but it's a lot of mix and match we see in the second half. But what Northside said earlier, I want to see intensity. I want to see that pick up, because I've been seeing a lot of images and stuff on social media and on TV talking about how Arsenal have really increased the intensity of their training in the past few days since the Man United defeat. That's what I really want to see take a big improvement, because that was lacking there. That cohesion was also a factor, and I think that will take a bit longer to iron out at points. So we may still see some teething issues even going into the new season, by the way. But I just want to make sure that we are still at a high enough level. We were creating a few opportunities. We did create a few opportunities against Man United in that game. We couldn't take them. Martinelli couldn't take it. Eddie Nketiah couldn't take it as well. We had a few half chances outside the box where Martinelli hit one over as well. So if we can keep doing that against a Barcelona, against a team that won the league last year, and Xavi's really reinvigorated that club, even with all those debts and the finance issues, as you said, Brandon. I think this is a real point for the first teamers, the ones who didn't win us the league last year, who, you know, as Gabriel Jesus said, he was nervous. The players that really have that chip on their shoulder against this level of opposition, we potentially may come up against them in the Champions League. Set a marker down in terms of performance. Get aggressive, get in that centre of the pitch. Let's see some more patterns of play and things not breaking down and not getting done over with the long ball. Let's try and make sure those things are sorted out. In terms of players that I'm really looking forward to seeing tonight, I need to see Jesus. I need to see Jesus start. I'm not really too fussed where he starts, to be honest, because I need to see him on the pitch somewhere in that front line. I also want to see Balogun. I think tonight is going to be huge for Balogun's future. If he's not playing the majority of this game, so starting really, then that's it. He's gone for me. And unless he's got an injury that we suddenly hear about, but I think this one's going to be huge for Balogun's future. Someone who I'd rather keep over Eddie Nketiah, from someone who I've seen even in pre-season when he missed the big chances against Nuremberg. You don't see Eddie get that many chances in that game, but Arteta seems to prefer Eddie. I'm not too sure. I'll be honest, I'm not really too sure why. And I do like Arteta, but I'm not too sure on that one with Eddie Nketiah. So he's someone that I'd look to move on. And I remember seeing someone in the chat saying that he's been attracting interest from Crystal Palace. So that'd be a move I'd be inclined to go for if that option was there. And then Balogun gets more opportunities this season to try and prove himself. So Jesus, Balogun, and intensity. Those are the three things that I want to see tonight.
I'm on mute again. My camera's all gone weird as well.
After you said it to Northside, it's gone. It's finished.
You get me? After you called man out, yeah? Look at that.
Call you out. And now I'm doing it myself. It's not good. We're supposed to be experienced streamers here. Yeah, I agree. I want to see Balogun in this game. You know, I was very, very worried and disappointed not see him against Manchester United. I thought that game in particular was perfect opportunity to give to Balogun. You know, the guy's gone out on loan in France. A lot of fans say, yeah, but it's the French league. Can he do it in the Premier League? You have an opportunity there to play him against Man United, you know, one of our biggest rivals in the league. And I have no doubts they'll be up there as well, fighting for a league title this season, Man United, if they get their signings over the line. Perfect opportunity, didn't give it to him. I don't understand why. Maybe, you know, he's already on his way out of the door. I hope that's not the case, because I'm very similar thoughts to you, Teareak. You know, I'd much prefer Balogun over Eddie Nketiah. And let's be real, we're not getting a striker in right now. I mean, if you look at the strikers market, it's unreal. Like, if you want a top player, you're looking at £100 million plus. And, you know, I know Northside will agree with me on this one. If you're a big club, Arsenal, really, you should be doing, you know, the £100 million plus on a striker.
Mbappe.
Mbappe, yeah. We'll talk about that one in just a second, because apparently he's, you know, rejected Saudi Arabia. Interesting, you know. Maybe they'll take me instead, but I don't look like him, so we're all good. Northside, you've got an opportunity there, bro. Maybe
Opportunity on what?
Saudi Arabia. You just, I don't know, got to cut the hair off, mate, sort the hairline out and that. Maybe you could go over there as Mbappe. I'm not sure if you could play like him.
Maybe Eddie will sign me up. I speak Portuguese. I'm Portuguese, so maybe he'll sign me up. You know what I'm saying? I ain't young, though. I don't fit Project Youth. I'm 30, so...
Hey, you don't look it, though. You know what I mean? So fair play to your Northside.
No, big up, man. We're out here, innit? We're out here. The genes are strong. You get me?
What we're saying on Northside? What we're saying about Barcelona?
About Barcelona, for me, I look at the issues we had against Man United. If we don't fix up at the back, well, Barcelona got Lewandowski. You know, with Ramsdale not doing good enough, in my opinion, against the shot, against Bruno's shot, Lewandowski doesn't need too many opportunities to put the ball in the back of the net. Then when you look at also, you look at Gabriel, bro, you can't be making mistakes like that when they've got Lewandowski, they got Gavi, they got Ferran Torres, Ansu Fati. They got attacking players that can hurt us, you know. So we need to sharpen up. Our goalkeeper needs to sharpen up. Gabriel needs to knock that out of his game. He needs to be focused, fully focused for the 90 minutes. Then you look at the midfield. They got Gundogan. That for me, I still think is a world-class player, and is one of Man City's best players, if not their best player last season. The way he dragged them to the last games that Man City had, the way Gundogan was performing, bro, what a lead. That's what you call a leader, bro. Crunch game.
I tell you what, we could see a Barcelona midfield of Gundogan and Frankie de Jong versus Kai Havertz and bloody Declan Rice. Do you know what I mean? Like
Ty said, Declan Rice didn't perform that well against Man United. He wasn't doing his duties. He was drifting. He wasn't closing down his man. That's his role. And if we're going to have, like Ty said, if the manager's going to play Havertz alongside him, he has to be disciplined in that role, because Havertz ain't really easy. That's not where he excels. So you have to be on your man. You can't allow people to be drifting in like Anthony, like Bruno Fernandes, to be drifting in and getting shots off in the middle of the park. You can't be doing. That's your job. That is the reason why we're trusting you, Declan Rice, to be closing these guys down and cutting the passing lanes and winning the ball up quickly, so you can get it to Havertz, you can get it to Odegaard. So you have to improve in that. You know, I do think that I rate Declan Rice. I'm not going to trash Declan Rice, because I actually rate him. That's actually a big signing that I wanted this club to do. But you got to sharpen up. At the end of the day, listen, the season's starting soon. But listen, I'm not taking shots, man. I'm actually agreeing with what you said. Declan Rice didn't have a good. Bro, people, come on, man. Don't be so sensitive online. Come on.
I think that was more the age thing.
Huh?
Was it shots at me or you're about Ty from AFTV? Because I'm sure
No,
it
no.
was.
Yeah, maybe they're getting confused. I don't know.
Northside, bro. What's going on tonight? We've been on 2 streams and all your haters have came out, mate. Like, what's going on?
What for me?
Yeah,
This is normal. This is normal. They don't like that. This is normal, man. Let them cry, bro. Let them cry. You know what I'm saying? Let them cry. Because at the end of every season, these men are ghosting my channel. They ain't coming to me talking to me. Yeah, every time I call them out, they ain't coming chatting nothing to me. But like I said, back on topic. Like I said, they've got midfielders that can cause us damage. So at the end of the day, we need to be on job. You know, Busquets still got it. Frankie De Jong, like you said. You've got Gundogan. So, you know, defensively, we need to be sharp. And also, I agree with Ty and I agree with you, Brandon, that I do think Balogun needs an opportunity. We've seen enough from Nketiah. It just ain't good enough. It's not being overreacting to him missing against Man United. We see this year in, year out. And I just think that we just need to cut ties. And if we can have intensity, at the end of the day, like, bro, no matter what the manager says, yeah, players need to have pride in their performance. We didn't see that against Man United. Tactics can be wrong. You can still put a foot in, put a last-ditch tackle, give your all, slap something top things. You have to have pride in your own performance. We've seen Aubameyang perform in this team when he was the only one scoring. Do you know what I'm saying? He didn't look and say, oh, you know what? The team is toxic and negative under Unai Emery. We don't have the quality and all this nonsense. I'm not going to give 110%. Whether the tactics are right or not, you have to have pride in the way that you play. And if we're having competition for places, these players should feel like their position's on the line. I love last season when Trossard came in and provided that competition for Martinelli. All of a sudden, Martinelli, squeaky bum time, bro. It's not a given every week you're playing. And this is how these players need to feel, because that's how you get the best out of every player. When we had Invincibles, it was competition all over the pitch. You had to give 10-10. If not, bench next game. That is the pressure they should be feeling, bro. Elite clubs have top-class players on the bench. Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Arsenal, now that I hope that we continue to address this light bench and this light squad. These man, I don't care how much if you just come in. You should be proving a point that you should be starting over a Rice if we're playing Partey as a CDM. You know what I'm saying? You should be proving a point that you should be starting ahead of Ben White. That's how it should be. And any other excuse, yeah, you better shape up, because come the start of the season, I'm telling you now, yeah, I'm not having it. Win the league next season, or sack Arteta, sack Vinay, sack Edu, sack all of them. Enough money, it's been spent, enough time, win. It's time to win now, and that's it, bro. I bet these men better fix up. I want a statement of intent, like Ty said, against Barcelona. I ain't hearing no excuses, bro. No excuses. They better turn up. I know it's preseason. I don't care. Yeah, it's better to start having intensity and playing with desire and heart now than the first game of the season. It's harder to go from 0 to 100. So show it now, bro. Show it now. That's all I'm going to say.
And on that bombshell, has anybody else got anything to add? Teareak, anything else to add?
With the league thing, this is where we all agree on, and this is where me and Brandon definitely agreed on as well. It's definitely challenge for the league minimum, major trophy, in some aspects. I think with how Manchester City are moving, and it's not to say that they're not going to be at a title challenging level, with so much transition going on in that club at the moment, there's an opportunity to strike here. And Arsenal, we're in with Arteta, someone who I really rate and someone who I see as one of the potential top coaches in the world. That's what I say potential, because he ain't won us a league yet. And someone that I really do think has the tactical know-how in how to manage in these top games. And he's got something special that he can get the players to do it. Also, we've seen managers like Graham Potter go at Chelsea, who has all the, everything up there, all the gear, but not really a way to put it across to the players and get them to buy into your philosophy. Arteta's done that now. We're 4 years into it, and this is an opportunity to strike while the iron is hot. And Champions League, I want to see a good run, and I want to see us win a major trophy. So minimum competing for that league, knockout stages of the Champions League minimum, and then when we see the draw, that's when we can have more of a proper judgment. Because if we're going to get a draw, like, I don't know, in the last 16, and we get like an easy pathway to once you beat your team in the last 16, you get your pathway to the final then. And if we get an Inter Milan sort of pathway, I'm expecting to make the final, or the semi-final at least. But if we get a Man City in the semis or quarters or anything like that, then I'm not really. I just hope that we put in a performance there in both legs that we can be proud of and at least win one of them. But yeah, major trophies, definitely. That's something that I think we'll all agree on. We're at that level now, and I think Arteta himself would like that pressure, because that means that we've got that belief to do so. If you're putting with what Northside says, and people don't agree with it, I've seen it on socials, especially when he said that the expectation is to win the league. But I think he's saying that from a point of, I think whether he totally agrees with what the manager is, and if he would like to have someone elsewhere, that's up to him. But he sees the squad as good enough to do it now, as good enough to be at that level. So that's what Arteta's built. We're here, we embrace it. And yes, we're going to get a lot of pelters and a lot of eyes thrown at us from rivals. Take it. This is Arsenal back at the top. This is what we were in 2004 and the years before that. This is what the pressure makes diamonds at the end of the day.
Do you worry?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you worry, though, about the pressure? Because I do. I mean, if you look over the last 2 seasons, we was the favourites to get top 4. And we had a lot of pressure on our shoulders when we had, 3 games to go. We was favourites to get it. Tottenham were nowhere to be seen. And then all of a sudden they sneak it. And we crumbled at the end. And then the same again last season. We was, 8 points clear, 8 games to go, playing 1 game a week, throwing away every other competition. We was expected to win the league at that point, and we crumbled. So do you think all the added pressure that's going to be on these players and the manager from the get-go is going to be, it could be telling for our season? Do you know what I mean? It's either going to go one way or the other. I think it's either going to be a really, really, really good season, or it's going to be a really underwhelming season. I don't know.
If we're in a similar position to last season and we don't end up with that trophy where we've dominated for the most of it, that pressure, that tag of Arsenal being a bottle job and this group of players, we'll have to accept it, and something that we'd really have to address. I think Arteta spoke about this last season towards the end of it as well, saying if there's a mentality issue, I'm just paraphrasing here, that it's something that I have to sort out quickly because that can't happen at this club. And that's where the ruthlessness does need to come, even if it was with some of your favourite players. Arsenal are at such a delicate point, even with our players signing 4-year deals. If we're not showing that ruthlessness, and we can't be given the same opportunities that we did under Wenger, unfortunately, where we gave so much time and we lost our best players. With Bellerin saying, Alexis Sanchez likes to win too much. That's why he left, and that's why he walked out the door. Do you get me? And we can't do that anymore. If with Saudi Arabia knocking, they'll just take one of our players and say, there's an opportunity there, we'll take you, and then we'll give you a pathway to Real Madrid if they want to take it. And who knows what that league might be in those few years if we don't sort out our thing now. So we have to really take this opportunity. And I believe that the players will learn from it, because as you said there, Brandon, from the top 4, when we bottled the top 4, where we didn't finish in there, to moving to the level that we were last season, they've shown that they can use that as fire, as fuel to push them on and push forward. And I hope that sometimes it's like we've seen it in the Champions League. You have to make it to the final, lose, experience that, to then know what you need to do in those final months at the end of next season. And if we're in this position where we're challenging with City and it's point and only a small amount of points difference, bro, I have to see us deal with that no matter what. Even if City go on and win the league, if it's like a Liverpool 97, 98, then we can contextualize that. But if we fall off at any point, injuries, not an excuse anymore with how this squad's built.
Okay. There's a question here for you, Northside. Before you go ahead and answer it, mate, there's 91 people now watching. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. We're on what, 40 likes? Come on, people, get on with it.
50.
All you got to do is click that button. That's it. Just click that button. Northside, question for you. Do you think Saka, being untouchable as he is now, will drop form if we bring in Kudus, or will he go to a new level?
Did Martinelli drop form when we got Trossard, or did he start actually performing better when we bought Trossard? When you look at Real Madrid, they have a bench of a second squad, like this fan base love to say about Man City. Do they rise to the occasion or do they fold? Bayern Munich, Barcelona, all these teams that consistently perform. I don't know. Do they? I want to know. Because at the end of the day, people can't argue one point that, oh, we had a thin squad, which is why we didn't win the league. And the second point, you want to get rid of the quality bench, which is Partey, and then you don't want to add to the bench that everyone's deemed is not good enough. You can't have both. Either you want a strong bench or you don't. But if you don't use it as an excuse as to why we can't achieve things. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, logically, that argument doesn't make sense. So for me, get someone that's better than Saka. I'd love to sit Saka on the bench because I tell you what, I'd love to see that fire in his belly. And obviously, just having Saka isn't enough for us to win the league. And if he's as good as much as we rate him, then he'll rise to the occasion. If he doesn't, then he can hold bench. It's as simple as that. At the end of the day, we support Arsenal, not any football player. And we have to put the football club, in first place. Because I tell you what, as much as people rate certain players at Arsenal and this manager, do you think if they're linked to Real Madrid and they put the money down, or Barcelona, you think they're not going? You think this manager would stay here over Barcelona or Real Madrid? Or even a Bayern Munich? So at the end of the day, you have to realize that players and managers are mercenaries. They do what's best for their careers. And if there's a better club, bigger budget, more money, etc., they're leaving. If Man City got rid of Pep and Arteta left and wanted Saka, you think he's not leaving? For more money and a club that's actually winning things and has a squad that's prepared. If you think that, then boy, I don't know, innit? I've seen Sol Campbell promise Tottenham fans that he's going to stay and leave. Even, do you know what? It's perfect because I'm going to add this to my next reaction video. Declan Rice come out in an interview. I think it dropped today. And he said he'd come to Arsenal because he saw a gradual progression that the club is moving forward. And we've improved from 5th place the season before to now finishing last season 2nd place. So players are swayed by who's winning. It's as simple as that. So do you think Saka cares if he sits on the bench if we're winning Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues? No, ultimately, they don't care. Players that are on the bench of Real Madrid and all these the biggest clubs that continues to win, do you hear them complaining? Oh, I'm on the bench. I don't want to be here. They're winning major honours. They don't care. So ultimately, this whole argument about, and I'm not saying that this comment is saying that, but I hear this a lot in the Arsenal fan. Oh, but Odegaard is going to stop his progression. No, it's going to put fire up his ass. It's going to put a fire up his ass of a lot of these starting lineup players. Nobody's crying that Declan Rice may start ahead of Partey. A lot of these Arsenal fans saying, oh, now we got Declan Rice, we should get rid of Partey. But last season, they were saying that Partey is the best CDM in the Premier League. Well, Declan Rice was there. And so was Casemiro. Casemiro is the best CDM in the Premier League. Let's be real. CV and performance, he's the best. Yeah? But all of a sudden, let's get rid. I don't understand. You want to get rid of the players that were on the starting lineup, which is why we got 2nd place, which is why people are loading up this manager. But the other side, they're complaining that we got a light bench, and then they don't want to add to that bench that they're saying is light. It just doesn't make sense. And this is why I come online the way I come online, because a lot of the comments for me is crazy, bro. Crazy. But what can I say? Like Lee says, in the words of my guy Lee, we're toxic and negative. Filhos da puta, não tô aqui para ouvir essa merda.
Right, finally, before we wrap this up, guys, of course, make sure you're hitting that like button. Hit that like button. And of course, go over and show these guys some love as well. I've got their channels in the description. So make sure you go over to Teareak's channel, Teareak Talks, and hit that subscribe button. Show the guys some love. And of course, Northside as well. A lot of haters in the chat tonight, so maybe they won't head over to your channel, bro. But we'll see. We'll see.
They will. They always got to try and clip me up. That it's they will not prosper. Yeah, they will not prosper. They love it. Listen, the haters is what makes our channels, bro, because they always got to come back and you're so negative. Just be happy. Yeah, keep crying. Because guess what? As soon as I come offline, I'm having a nice dinner, got a nice girl, got a nice house. I'm living good. So I couldn't care less. This is why I can continue to make videos because I don't care. How about that?
Okay. Just before we wrap it up, score prediction. Teareak.
I'm going to go with we're definitely not keeping a clean sheet. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go 3-2 to Arsenal.
3-2 to Arsenal. Northside.
I reckon it'll be a draw. I'm going for 2-2.
2-2. Okay. I'm going to go
7-0.
I'm going to go 3-1 Arsenal. Kai Havertz hat-trick.
If that happens, the Northside channel blowing.
Make sure you sub to the channel for more takes like that. And on that bombshell, guys, we're going to get out of here. Make sure you sub to the channel. Make sure you hit the likes. Head over to the guys' channel as well. Do all of that, and hopefully Arsenal will get a victory later on today. Peace. We're out.